Welcome to Women Unleashed. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Women Unleashed. So today I've got my friend and fellow online coach, Aiste.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all good. How's you?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for coming onto my podcast. So the reason I wanted to get you on today is because obviously we're both in the fitness industry, and there's a topic that comes across quite often, and that is relationship with food. And coming from my background as a competitor, I've obviously struggled with it myself, but I wanted you to speak about it as well a little bit, and kind of how you've dealt with it and your history. So just give us a little brief on who you are, what you do, and just a little bit of background.
Okay, so obviously my name's Aiste and I'm an online coach. Basically, I started my own health and fitness journey from needing to gain weight. I was always very, very petite. I don't know where to look, whether to look at you or the camera. I obviously started off because I was very petite all throughout school and everything. I was constantly told, like, you need to eat a burger, and that whole mentality, which I feel like a lot of people don't relate with. Yeah. Usually it's the other way about. So that's why I started going to the gym. Obviously didn't have any idea, and then I went through every potential fad diet from there, basically. So the last couple of years, my relationship with food has been amazing. Like, I'll eat anything at any time, but beforehand, like, I did the whole restriction. I did the 1,200 calories, then I did the 3,000 calories, eating good Monday to Friday, and then doing whatever I wanted the weekends and wondering why nothing was changing. And naturally, I always had a fast metabolism, so literally nothing was changing.
Yeah. And what kind of made you realise that you had obviously a bad relationship with food, and that obviously you wanted to gain the weight but you couldn't? So when did all that start?
Probably from school. It would have been in school. Like, my parents are going to listen to this and kill me, but they used to give me money for food. I used to spend it at the weekends on bad stuff. I literally used to like not get lunch in school. I used to get like a cracker for lunch, and then I just got into that habit, and then I would go home and eat whatever my mum made for dinner or whatever, but not eat anything during the day. And then I got into that mindset that you should only be eating, 2 or 3 times a day. So that's where like I started really struggling to gain weight. It never really like affected me until people started mentioning it. Like, it was whenever people mentioned it, but it was probably when I was like 16, 17 that I actually realised, like, okay, I don't want to look like this.
So were you never like one of them kids? I mean, I was more a fat kid at heart, and I was like always about food. I'd be the kid that'd be like, I'll eat that, I'll eat this. Although I was fussy, I was more of a chunky kid because I enjoyed my food. So was food never like your focus?
I used to eat a lot, but I used to just eat crap all the time. So like I would have literally something like freaking McDonald's for dinner and then not eat the rest of the day because I would feel like shit after it.
Yeah.
That was always my mentality. And then like I would go on the other end of the spectrum where I would want to be really healthy. So all I would eat is salads. Yeah. And then obviously that defeated the whole purpose of me trying to gain weight. But my mentality was always, I want to gain it in a healthy way. Yeah. But that actually ended up with me having a really toxic relationship with food where I thought I wasn't allowed anything else then.
Yeah. So at the age of 16, 17, how did you start fixing your relationship with food effectively?
So basically I started the gym, started learning a wee bit more. Like, I didn't have a coach or anything like that, so I didn't understand what I was doing essentially, but I just started doing my own like knowledge.
Your own thing, just
research, yeah.
And from what you see on social media, I guess, and online, and from other people and
absolutely
around you are doing as well.
Yeah, exactly. And social media can be so toxic for that too, because I feel like that actually made my relationship with food worse. Yeah. And then basically I gained weight, started building my confidence up, and it actually all went downhill, I would say, about 3-4 years ago. It was before COVID. I did a photo shoot prep, and it was awful. I was on like 700 calories a day. And in my head, I was like, no, but I'm photo shoot prepping. This is what I have to do. That's not what you have to do, by the way. Just throwing it out there. If anybody has you in 700 calories, don't listen to them. And I had that mentality. And after that, my relationship with food was wrecked. Like, I was scared of eating. I was binging nearly every night. I wouldn't eat during the day. I would binge out, put a load of weight on. Well, I wasn't overweight, but for me, I felt really uncomfortable. It was the heaviest I've ever been. And then automatically I'm going to that mindset, right, I need to start cutting my meals out, even though at this stage, like, I was already doing this for my work.
Yeah.
So practice what you preach and all that. I wasn't doing that. And then, yeah, over, I would say, the last 2-3 years, then I actually started focusing on, like, reverse dieting and what everybody talks about, what I was talking about on my social media. Started my reverse diet, started seeing that I was actually able to put on muscle without just getting fatter.
Yeah.
And gradually build my calories up. And now my maintenance is like 2,600, which is ridiculous.
Incredible. That is a lot of food to be having. And, you know, especially when you get clients that come to you or me and they say, you know, like, I'm eating 1,200 calories, I'm not seeing results. Well, you're not going to. Because at the end of the day, if you're on such little calories for so long, you're crashing your metabolism. Your body's not going to fire. It's not going to work.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, like, because when I was on that 700, then I came out of it, binged, then I tried to restrict again, but sure, my metabolism had crashed at that stage completely. So even though I wanted to lose the weight, I couldn't even, because my maintenance was probably 1,700 at that stage.
You get in that really vicious cycle of, oh, well, I'm going to really restrict myself, and then obviously you end up binging, and then you're like fat. Well, you're not fat, but you think you're fat, and then you get into this really vicious cycle. And I was the same, obviously, through competing.
Yeah.
I ended up being really, really lean, to a stage where I was like, size 4 jeans were too big for me. You know, they were hanging off me, and I remember looking in the mirror and thinking,
I'm massive.
I'm huge.
Yeah.
And everybody was looking at me thinking, you are skinny. Like, look at your legs. You look anorexic. That's what people used to say to me. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm fat.
You can't see it within yourself, but that's absolutely it. Like, I would be in the house and my mum would be like my face. And now when I look back on those photos, I can see it clear as day.
100%.
I
I'm
look
the same.
sick.
I look like a crackhead. I literally look like a crackhead.
The eyes, everything sinking out of you. And that's the thing. Like, back then, my mum would have been like, no, this is getting really bad. I say, your face looks disgusting. And she'll be just blunt. She'll not even be like, you're losing weight. She's like, you look pathetic. And I didn't see it at all at the time. Whereas now, looking back, I'm like, that was not it. But you'll never see it within yourself. And being in the fitness industry too, body dysmorphia is mental.
It's huge. It's
proud,
huge.
but like now I'm proud, but I'm still not satisfied. I'll still find something to pick on. Need my abs back, need a bigger bum, everything else.
There's always something, and there is always something. So when clients come to you and they've got this bad relationship with food, how do you go about it with them? What do you say to them? How do you start?
I feel like with those clients, because I can relate to them a lot more, because obviously in the fitness industry, most clients sign up with you for fat loss. Yeah. Because I can relate to them more, I feel like I'm able to communicate it better with them as well. So I always question, like, food's my thing when it comes to coaching. Like, I'll always question where they're sitting at, like, literally make them write me out their day-to-day eating. They'll probably hate me for it, but write everything out so I can calculate how many calories they're roughly consuming. And it is usually that 1,000 to 1,200. And then start reverse dieting. But I feel like the main thing that I always do with my clients, I'll not go 12, like say they're 1,200, sorry, not 12,000, 1,200 to like 1,800. I'll go 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, because I feel like that would have scared me off at the start. If somebody told me to eat 500 calories more than I was eating, I'd be like, not a chance.
No,
I'd just be lying to them.
They're just worried that they are going to gain weight. And I guess I get that with my clients as well, who come to me and they have that bad relationship with food. And I'm like, right, okay, well, what do you eat in a day? And they're like, well, I skip breakfast, first of all. And then I do end up binging at night. So I have a mixture of clients, those that obviously are eating very, very little, and then the ones who don't eat through the day, and then they end up binging at night. And then they'll do the same again. And then they end up being over on the calories because they're just binging at night time because they're so hungry that, you know, they're not filling themselves throughout the day.
Well, that's the thing. Like, whenever somebody tells me that they have binging habits, like, it's not because they're hungry. Like, that's not where it comes from. And I always question it. It comes down to, like, patterns, like, obviously skipping breakfast, skipping lunch. Obviously, when you're going to come home, you're going to be starving, in that moment. And then you feel like you need to make up for it. But I always say, strip it back to the basics. Like, there's a reason that you're binging. That's, you know, like, you have that control. Some people feel like they're completely out of their control, but it does stem down from something. If it's stress, if it's emotional, like, turning to food for emotional comfort is a very big one as well. But a big one would be under eating during the day, and they don't say it like that, because then they're like, oh, I'm going to binge at night time anyway, so that's why. Or like, if they're having a takeaway, that's a big one. If they get a takeaway on Saturday night, the girls always be like to me, so I didn't eat anything beforehand. I'm like, but if you had your normal breakfast and lunch, you wouldn't have ended up binging out on that Chinese. You would have ate until you're full.
And then stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm the same, for example, if I miss a meal because I'm too busy, and then you'll have seen me actually the other day, we went about 5 hours without eating, and I got home, I had my meal, and if anything, it made me more hungry. So I wanted more. So that's kind of what clients do. They don't eat all day. They get to that meal, they eat the first meal, and then they're like, whoa, I can still eat more, and then binge, 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 and binge, because they can't satisfy their fullness.
Absolutely, and it spikes their insulin and everything else. Like digestion gets wrecked, and then the next day you wake up feeling like crap about it, and you're like
hungover, like a
literally food coma.
Yeah, that's what it is. And you think, why do I feel like this? And your digestion, like you said, is massively affected through not eating regularly and having that one big meal at night, especially at nighttime before bed, because that's when people do it. They binge at nighttime. But I find that a lot of clients associate TV time as well, and nighttime, sitting there with the family,
Relaxing.
Yeah. With food, which is fine, but going from, for example, having your lunch and your dinner and your breakfast in front of the TV, I think is a bad habit personally.
I completely agree with you, and that's one thing I always notice as well. So like with my clients, I always try to be like, leave your snack or leave your favourite part of the day, like me with my Kinder Bueno, towards the end of the night when you're having that downtime. And like even silly things, like don't buy the family pack of Doritos, buy a snack size. But I feel like everything's a habit, and I'm a big believer in that. It's a habit. Like I used to binge all the time. I used to buy like a packet of digestives and just grab one every time I walk past the cupboard. Not because I actually wanted it, not because I was hungry, but because it was there and it's what I was used to. Like you see me with Biscoff now every morning.
Yeah.
I used to eat the whole jar in one go. Religiously, like as soon as I got a taste, so then automatically I was like, no, I'm cutting this out completely out of my dad because it's ruining my dad. And then I flipped the perspective, and it is where like it depends on what way you look at it. Like I'm like, no, I'm allowed my bagel with Biscoff every single morning, which I religiously have every single morning, but I don't want it the rest of the day then. That jar will last me until it runs out with my bagel with Biscoff.
I think that's because you're not restricting yourself and you're allowing yourself to have it. You know that you can have it at any time. And I always say to clients, especially when they go on holiday, food is always going to be there. Like, you're not going on holiday, going all inclusive to just binge. Like, food is always going to be there. Food's going to be there when you come back home. So why do you feel the need to binge? And a lot of the time, like you say, it is underlying issues like emotional eating because they're stressed or they're upset or something's happened in the family. That's one big area that I actually covered with my clients on a seminar, because I have a lot of clients who do emotionally eat.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And like, I know I used to be like that too. Anytime I'm stressed, now I'm sort of the opposite. If I'm stressed, my appetite will naturally drop. But beforehand, like I would have just been like, right, I'm stressed, I'm going to order a pizza. I'm going to order a Chinese or whatever. And the sad part is it doesn't actually make you feel any better.
If anything, you feel worse.
You feel like shit then afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to incorporate coping mechanisms with clients to be like, right, recognize that you're doing this, first of all. Recognize that you're emotionally eating. Recognize that you're binging. And then find something else to do. You don't need to grab food. Go for a walk.
Yeah,
like, distract yourself. Get out of that situation. Call a friend. Do something completely different.
You have to recognize your triggers. So, like, I feel like a lot of people don't know what it actually is. They're like, I'm just a binger. It's something I've always done. I'm like, but you're not. There's a reason that's like that actually has started, whether that's from childhood, you know, like even what your family eats around you. Like if you're growing up seeing your mum and dad constantly eating shit in the evenings when they're lying in front of the TV, that's exactly what you're going to do. Like we had this conversation the other day, like me and you both grew up around actually really healthy food and homemade and home-cooked meals, so we're not big on takeaways for that reason.
And I would say that's more of a cultural thing as well.
110%,
I mean,
absolutely.
we're both Eastern European, so it wasn't in our culture, there wasn't such a thing as having a takeaway on a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday. It was always home-cooked meals. So for me, that's how I got brought up, and then obviously moving to the UK, it became more of a thing then because I was going to my friend's house and their parents were getting takeaways. So then I was going home being like, Mum, can we get a takeaway?
Why don't we get takeaways?
Yeah, why do we not get takeaways? And it's just like my mum and dad were obviously trying to protect me from that. I'm not saying takeaways bad, they're fine to have every now and again, but again, if you get roped into it to have them all the time, then you just end up being in a really bad place with it.
Absolutely, and it's habit again, do you know what I mean? Like, not many people want a takeaway Monday through to Friday, but as soon as Saturday hits, it's automatic.
It's like with alcohol.
Absolutely. Like, why don't you drink on a Tuesday? Why Saturday? Like,
Yeah, like why do you have to wait till the weekend, get that weekend feeling? Why not that Tuesday feeling, you know?
literally. No, absolutely. And sure, I was saying to you, like, I obviously moved to the UK when I was 7. I had never had a takeaway right up to that point. And I didn't even know about them. I didn't know what they were because my mum always made my dinners at home. And then when I moved out here, and it was influenced from me, like making friends and having sleepovers and stuff like that, that their families would be ordering in. And then obviously you get hooked. As a child, obviously, I didn't know what McDonald's was. I fucking loved it.
I wanted McDonald's. But I think a lot of parents as well, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but reward children with takeaways and with McDonald's and stuff, and then that will come into into their life later on and become like this addiction and somewhere they seek comfort. Because if they associate McDonald's with happy times as a child, they will do the same as an adult. You know, if they're feeling sad, they'll be like, oh, how can I make myself feel better? McDonald's, food, because that's how my parents rewarded me when I was behaving well or when I felt good.
Absolutely. And like, even speaking on that, like whenever I said I was always being super good Monday to Friday, I used to reward myself with eating whatever I wanted all weekend because I was so good. And it's just that toxic cycle because you're never going to get out of it because in your head you're justifying it even though it logically doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I used to do. So I used to binge all weekend then because I was allowed it, obviously. And then Monday morning we're back to the lettuce. I don't even like lettuce.
It was... It's like that, you know, where you're like, right, okay, it's the weekend. I'm just going to binge and eat as much as I can and then pull back. Because I did the same, you know, post-competing. I'd be like, right, okay, I'm trying to get... This was after my first show. I literally had a bag full of chocolates, sweets, everything I wanted throughout prep. Bought that. I ate it all within 4 days.
Yeah.
I literally binged on chocolate. I made myself sick. And then I was like, and I just gained all this weight. And I was like, why am I doing this? So for my next show, I was like, I'm only going to get something little, like a little chocolate bar that I fancy, and then have, I don't know, a burger or a pizza after, and that's it. Like, if you're accumulating that food, you're obviously going to eat it. So that's something that I learned as well. But then what I'd do, I'd binge, and then I'd go do endless hours of cardio.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I find that a lot of clients do this as well.
Absolutely.
They will eat something, they'll feel guilty and punish themselves. And I did it for years. I'm not going to sit here and say I was perfect. I did this for years. And then it's only more so recently that I've stopped doing that and be like, okay, you had that, just fine, just go back on your normal food and pull back down.
Yeah, pull back on your calories. But that's the thing. I feel like when you're in this industry, and I see so many people coming in and out of it, you have to go through it yourself to understand it.
Sure. That's the best advice you're going to give someone when you've been through it yourself.
Absolutely, because that's the thing. Like, I feel like I connect really, really well with the girls that do have a bad relationship with food. Of course, we don't want them to have it, but I always connect really well with them because I've been there and I understand it, and I'm not turning around and being like, because people would be like, oh, sure, just push your calories up, it's not that hard. I'm like, you don't understand that it's all a mental battle. Yeah. It's not physically, it's not hard, of course, but the thoughts going through your head are rough.
Yeah, so it's a rough time. It's a rough ride. Yeah, because you give like say a client like 1,800 calories, they're gonna be like, whoa, I'm not gonna eat that.
And I get that so much even now, like with girls that are just like, especially because of social media, I feel like, and now it's getting a wee bit better. I definitely see it a lot more. But do you remember the trend of the 1,200 calories? And that one always stands out to me.
Yeah, me too.
So like, a girl will come to me for fat loss, and say, for example, she's overweight, so naturally her maintenance is going to be quite high. Her deficit doesn't need to be below 2,000, which is a lot of food. But she'd be like, no, that's far too many calories, I'm never going to lose weight on that. And then that's when you have to obviously educate people and get them to understand how a deficit actually works, because I always find that like you'll restrict too much. Like the way I always question them is like, if you're on 1,200 now,
where are you going to be at the end?
Yeah. Once you plateau at 1,200, what, we're going to drop you to 1,000?
Yeah.
Because good luck with that. I'm not doing that.
I don't want to. I've done my fair share of 600 calories as well, like similar to what you said on prep, and I literally had 6 meals of 100 grams of chicken and lettuce.
Yeah.
Like, it's horrible. Like, how do you expect to function on that? Like, for your hormones, for your body, for everything. Like, I'm huge on hormone health, and when clients come to me and say I'm eating 1,200 calories, I'm like, okay, but that's not enough to fuel a child. Yeah. So how are you fueling yourself, for one? And they're like, well, I can't eat any more than that, then I'll gain weight. So what I do is I'm like, look, you've come to me, you trust me.
Yeah.
So let me take over. I explain to them how everything works, and normally for my clients, you know, with the weight that they are, they normally start at about 2,000 calories, most of them, you know, which is they're still in a deficit. And like, oh my God, this is so much food. And I'm like, but it's not. It's just because it's clean food. You feel like it's a lot of food.
Absolutely.
But if I put a McDonald's in front of you, that's 2,000 calories. You're not going to say that's a lot of food.
Exactly, and I feel like that's one thing a lot of people don't understand, because I get that all the time. They're like, I can't believe I'm eating this much. And I was like, you were eating a lot more before that. That's how you ended up gaining the weight. And it just, the food was all processed, saturated fats, obviously super high in fats in general. So that one meal you were having could have been like 1,200 calories on its own. Whereas now you're adding your veggies in, you're adding your good carbs and obviously your protein sources and all in there. And the meal is only adding up to 400, but it's 4 times the size.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So would you say that obviously that is kind of like the main area that you cover with your clients, the relationship with food side of
Absolutely, yeah. I think like with regards to my coaching, it is very nutrition based. Like, yes, of course I focus on their workout plans and everything else, but I feel like majority of my clients that come to me, it is like they don't have understanding of nutrition and they want to gain knowledge on that, or they have a bad relationship with food. They might sometimes be unaware of that as well, because I'll take consultation calls and they're talking and be like, I'm eating this much because I can't gain weight if I eat any more than that, and it's like a red alarm in my head going, okay, we need to take this one slower. But yeah, it would be mainly nutrition based.
How did you feel when you were kind of trying to transition from obviously eating so little to increasing your food? Like, how did you approach the situation?
Shutting myself.
Did you have somebody to kind of help you?
Yeah, so at that stage, basically, my thought process was, after that shoot that I was on 700 calories, I then ended up gaining a load of weight after that, and I was like, I need to book another photo shoot because that's going to keep me disciplined and that's going to get me to be skinny again, which is the most ridiculous mentality ever. That was my mindset around it. So initially I was going to do a photo shoot, and then I don't actually know what it was that flipped in my head. I was like, I don't actually want to do a shoot. I didn't want to do it. I had no reason for doing it other than to lose weight and be skinny again, essentially.
Get into the bad.
And I feel like it was then that it clicked with me. I'm like, okay, something's not right here. I'm like, I'm telling my clients one thing, because I can preach about it all day, but I'm not doing any of that. Do you know what I mean? So I hired a coach. And it's one thing I will recommend to everybody, and I know I'm biased, you know, because I'm a coach myself, but
people often say like, well, you're a coach, why do you have a coach?
Accountability.
The accountability, that's what I say. It's the accountability that we all need it. Just because we're a coach doesn't mean we don't need accountability.
They'll struggle naturally as everybody else does, and that's the thing. Like I said, I can tell you what's the right thing to do all day, every day, but I'm not going to do it myself. Like, if you have even something going on in the background or whatever, it's not your main focus. Unless you have somebody to hold yourself accountable to, you're not going to do it. And I feel like that's just human nature. We need somebody else to be like,
over our shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, you can do this kind of thing. So I got a coach. She's absolutely brilliant. Like, she gradually pushed my calories up. There was no big jump. And yeah, went back to calorie tracking and everything else. Wasn't going to do meal plans at the time because I knew it would have just messed with my head, having the same thing every single day. And yeah, then I went into my first proper bulk and I ended up on like over 3,000 calories at that time.
What a dream.
No.
I
we
know.
hate the high calories.
I know, but like back then when you'd look in the mirror, could you see that you were so like lean and skinny?
No, I thought I looked massive. Like, don't get me wrong, I was fitting into a size 4, size 6, and I've always been that small, so it didn't make no difference to me. But I was looking in the mirror and I was disgusted with my reflection. Like,
what about now?
I feel great.
The glow up is real.
The glow up is real. No, I feel like over the last couple of years, definitely, I've took a long time to sort of get to where I'm at. Last year, again, I was going through something stressful, lost a load of weight. I had stopped coaching at this time, so then I started up with my coach again once I realised my relationship with food wasn't bad anymore. I was just stressed, my appetite was down, I just wasn't putting myself first. So I lost all my confidence. I would say like March, April last year, I was probably quite low in confidence, but my head was still in a good space where I didn't let it get to me. I just knew that I needed a wee bit of guidance, so that's why I got a coach again. And yeah, now it's probably the most confident and best I've ever felt in myself.
It's not something that happens overnight. It's literally a process. I was the same, like post-competing. I had to learn to accept the way that I was looking. And I went through a stage of actually not even looking in the mirror because I couldn't look at what was there. Whereas now I'm like 2 stone heavier, like 14, 16 kilo heavier than what I was before. Yeah. And I can actually look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I look good because I've spent time being this weight. Whereas when you're so lean for so long, like you get so obsessed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I got comfortable with seeing my ribcage. I thought that was normal. I was like, maybe back then it was, but I don't like, when I look at another girl, I'm like, oh, her body's amazing and she has a big bum. You can see she has a wee bit of weight on. And I was looking at myself going, no, this is the way I need to look. Do you know what I mean? It's not even what I find attractive myself.
Yeah. Would you say that came from social media or?
Potentially, yeah. I think like even being in the fitness industry, like having that pressure, and it's not actual pressure. You shouldn't feel like this, but naturally being on social media, being just in the fitness industry, trying to influence your clients, you feel like you have to be in shape all year round. And then as soon as that wee bit of weight comes on or off, whatever works for you, exactly, you lose your confidence instantly.
100%. And I mean, I've experienced it from both sides. Obviously, when I was so lean, like I felt that clients couldn't really relate. Whereas for me, then when I gained the weight, I was like, because of my hormones, it wasn't that I gained it on purpose. I just had, it was just what happened. I was like, why would people want to come to me? Why do people want to look like me? I look awful. And people were like, you look normal. But to me, I was like, I'm fat. Yeah. I wasn't fat. I was a little bit chunkier than what I am now. But in my head, I was like, well, I'm not going to get clients come to me. My business is going to go. You know, I was like, why would people want to look like me? So you feel that pressure constantly to look good.
Absolutely. And it is the industry and it's wrong thinking of it like that. And I know a lot of my clients don't give a flying shit about what I look like. Like they're there because they follow me or because of the food side of things or whatever else. They don't actually care. But it is that pressure of thinking you have to impress them essentially.
Yeah, but then like what define good? Do you know what I mean? Like I just said, well, you want to look good, but what is good? Because what is good to them might be complete good different to me. You know?
Absolutely, and that's the thing. And everybody has such different like goals in place, and I feel like your goals change all the time over time. Of course. Like when I was really lean, I was like, okay, I want to put weight on, and I want to grow this, and I want to grow this. Then I gained the weight, and I was like, I don't want this anymore. I want something else. Like it always changes.
It is. It's like your goalpost changes and you're kind of never happy with where you're at. So I think that's one thing that we're both kind of trying to work on is being happy with the process and enjoying the process and being happy with where we're at.
Absolutely. Proud and all getting satisfied. Never satisfied. No, absolutely. And I do, like, I feel like definitely at the minute I'm probably in the best place when it comes to my relationship with food and just in general and how I feel in myself too. Like, I'm enjoying my training. I'm enjoying eating certain days. My calories are too high, okay?
They are high.
Like, I'm enjoying what I'm eating, which I think is the main thing. Whereas beforehand, I would have just been eating boring meals that I would have hated as well, which defeated the whole purpose of, like, just being able to live life. And I feel like I have a healthy, like, my gym life, my career life, my social life. I'm in a happy medium at the minute.
Do you feel more alive as well, like in terms of energy and everything else? Because when you eat so little, you have no energy to do anything. You're an awful person. Speaking from experience, when I was on prep, I was awful. I didn't want to speak to anyone. I didn't want to see anyone. I was snappy. I was short. I had no energy. I didn't enjoy the food. You know, like, why would you not want to enjoy the greatest thing in life, which is food?
Absolutely. And I'm such a, like, tunnel vision person. Like, if I have that goal in place, so whenever I had the photo shoot, I seen nothing but that day, like just that photo shoot. And like if anybody outside of that, like my friends would be like, well, and this is just influence of other people, naturally they'd be like, oh sure, just do this or grab a coffee, it's only one coffee. And I used to be raging. I'm like, they don't understand this, they don't get me. And now I'm like, actually no, like all I have to say is no, they don't have to actually understand it, but it's not my job to get pissed off at people for inviting me out somewhere. Like,
no, I know, but it's true. Like people don't understand who aren't in the fitness industry or who aren't doing similar things. You know, like, oh, just have one, it won't make a difference. But when you're in that tunnel vision, you're like, well, it does make a difference. Yeah. For example, if you're prepping, it does make a difference. But if you're just a lifestyle client, you can go out and enjoy yourself. Like, absolutely. This one coffee won't hurt.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing. Like, because I always had such extreme goals like with the likes of the photo shoots and stuff like that, I'm like, I want to get as lean as I possibly can. That potentially messed my relationship up with food even more, because I did, like, I'm pretty sure I did 2 or 3, like, in the space of like a year and a half. So I was doing the photo shoot, binging afterwards, and then extreme dieting again, and it's that repetitive cycle. And then I was going to do the exact same thing, and I was like, it just clicked with myself. I'm like, hold on a minute, I'm setting an example for my clients here, and I can't even steady myself out. So then must have took like 2 years. I took like a full year just to sort of recover, get my calories up, and then I went into cut. And since that photo shoot, that would have been March 2021. So like 2 years ago, going 3 years now. Like, that's the best photo shoot I've done, and I'm so happy with it. Like, I'm so settled. I'm not even in the mood to do another one.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to get from probably your worst place to where you are now?
3 years. Yeah.
It's not a fast process.
And you go in and out of it. Like, that's what I mean. Like, there was times where I was just cruising along, and then I would dip, and then I would go the other end, and I feel like that's where most people give up, because like, could I give up? Do you know what I mean? If I ended up binging out, I could have just hit the fuck it button. Am I allowed to curse in this? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I cursed the whole way
Because
through.
it was cursed a lot. Press the fuck it button.
Yeah, like, I would have just naturally hit the fuck it button and just been like, I'm not doing this anymore. But instead, I started training my brain to change the thought pattern as well, and let my discipline kick in and be like, no, that happened last night, back to business today. And I feel like I am so good at that mindset now. Like, even if you put a pizza in front of me and I would eat the pizza, not that I care now because I actually enjoy food, but I would eat the pizza, like, beforehand I would have felt so guilty, and I wouldn't have ate the rest of the day. I would eat again when I'm hungry this evening.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. That guilt was always there for eating what's labelled as a bad food, where it's not really a bad food, it's just how much you have of it, and, you know, keeping it in moderation, which kind of now links to another question that I want to ask you: secret eating, which is kind of like the other spectrum of obviously what you went through. But do you find you have clients who, you know, are a little bit of a secret eater, who, I don't know, you know, hide the food from the family, or they'll binge at night time and not tell other people?
Absolutely, 100%, definitely. And it'll take months for clients to tell me, or for me to fish it out of them, because your coach always knows when you're lying to them.
We always know when you're lying. Always know, it always comes out. With magicians, we just know it.
And in the check, and I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Just questioning it, but trust me, we know what's going on. And yeah, I get it with clients all the time, and then it'll take like a couple of months. I'll get them on a phone call or whatever, and they'll end up admitting it and be like, yeah, or like, when they don't track it, so it doesn't count. That's like
yeah, nobody sees it, didn't count.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't put it in, so it didn't count. Or I feel like after a night out, so many people just sit there with a load of snacks after a night out, after everybody else has gone to bed, and then because they're drunk, which is understandable, they think that food doesn't count. But the next day they justify it with, oh, I was drunk.
Yeah,
you know, that sort of way. They don't take accountability for it.
Just be accountable. You put the food in your mouth.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean? No one else forced it down your throat.
You add the food, and yeah, just pull back on calories. I feel like that's where people overcomplicate it. Like, calorie energy balance is quite simple to understand when you actually understand it. So like, okay, you went 800 over your calories, you have 7 days to balance that out. Pull back by 100 a day.
Yeah.
You're still on high calories.
You don't have to starve yourself for 1, 2, 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always say with the girls that be like, I didn't eat all day because I'm having a takeaway tonight, or I had a takeaway that evening. I'm like, but why not just eat 100 calories less Monday through to Sunday before you're going to have your takeaway, and you wouldn't have to do that. And they're like, oh yeah, but I just would have felt really bad. I'm like, you wouldn't have ended up eating as much as you did.
You probably did about half of it, so actually you wouldn't have had to pull back as many calories either.
Exactly. But look, it's a learning curve, and I will never get frustrated with people that don't understand it either, because I was in that position for so long. Like, I did not understand it. And it just takes
you something for that one thing to click, and then you just know. And then you're like, right, actually, I need to sort this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like me being in this job was what did it for me, because I'm like, I am lying to everybody. I'm like happy family on freaking Instagram, and in reality, I'm sitting munching digestives every 20 seconds and then crying about it and going to exercise. Like, I used to train 7 days a week, not because I enjoyed it, but because I didn't want to get fat.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I was the same. And I mean, with the secret eating side of things, I remember post-show, my relationship with food was so bad that I'd have my meals, then I'd be like, right, I'm still hungry. Yeah. And I'd go to cupboards and just like sneak into them and eat things out of the cupboards. And I'd be like, what am I doing? Like, if I want to make a meal and sit down with everyone else and eat it. Why are you hiding? Yeah. Like, why are you hiding that you're eating this food? You know?
It's embarrassment, isn't it? Like, from that perspective. And as well as that, like, and I don't feel like you get that as much in the UK, but like Lithuania would be quite bad for that, where like everything is good or bad foods. Mm-hmm. And like I'd be phoning my family back home and say I'm standing there, like even with a Sprite Zero or a comment's going to be made, oh, you're a PT and you're eating that. That used to fuck with my head like nothing normal. Like, on the freaking Sprite Zero.
It's got no sugar in it.
Literally.
Let me alone.
But it would be like that with anything. Or like, I went through a phase where I was obsessed with donuts and don't forget a thing. I would have been like having a donut or something like, should you be eating that because you're a PT? Like, why is my job affecting what I'm eating
now?
Literally.
It's like, do you know that American thing with like, policemen eat donuts?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, just like associating people with what they can and can't eat. I'm sorry. Do you know what I mean? Literally. Oh, you work in McDonald's, that means you can only eat McDonald's. Like, what?
No, it's ridiculous. And I feel like that used to really, really get to me. Like people making comments. Any sort of comments, like, especially I feel like the older generation, because they'd be like, oh, they're sitting eating their sandwiches and all, but I'm not allowed to eat bread apparently, because I'm a PT, whatever that means.
Or I'd used to get, why don't you just eat something? You look so skinny.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, just eat something. Why don't you have a burger? It's like, right, okay, you don't understand. I've been at both ends of the spectrum. Yeah, so, same. I've gone from being super, super lean to being a little bit heavier where I felt uncomfortable. But that wasn't from eating rubbish either. So that was quite difficult. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people will relate to this episode because, we can see it ourselves through clients that they experience both.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. And like I said, you have to have the experience to be in this job. Like, you can't relate to a client going through that if you haven't been through it yourself. That's like I told you the other day, I would never prep a client for a show because I don't know myself what it entails. Yeah. I can do all my research until you experience it, until you struggle with it, which is the main thing, like until you go through the problems and struggles.
Until you feel the pain.
Yeah.
You have to. And that's the same from my perspective. I had to go through all that pain to kind of be able to help people now. And I think by doing that, you are actually helping people with like a genuine heart and with experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it helps me hold myself accountable too, because like I don't want to act fake in that sense. I don't want to be saying like preaching one thing and doing another. Like, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but I actually want to live up to my own expectation.
Yeah, for sure. So what would be one piece of advice that you would give people who have a bad relationship with food?
Trust your coach. Whenever they're telling you to eat that 100 calories more, trust your coach.
Or get one. Or get a coach.
Or get a coach, yeah. No, I'm only joking. Well, I'm not joking with that, but one thing I would say is it's not worth ruining your metabolism for it. Like, if you're eating 1,200 calories, there's absolutely no need for you to be eating that. A toddler is barely on those calories. They probably eat more than that. So, yeah, why are you eating like a child? You're a grown adult. You have responsibilities. Most of you look after children. Eat like an adult.
Yeah, I agree, 110%. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll tag all your details in the show notes as well for everyone to follow you. So where's the best place to get you?
Instagram.
And what are you called on Instagram?
At The Glute Girl.
The Glute Girl. So follow The Glute Girl on Instagram. I'll tag all the stuff in the show notes and I'll see you in the next episode.